Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Hell Week is over edition. It was a long week at the Woody Hayes, a long week at the Hyatt Place where the players stay at. It is now over. They had a very physical scrimmage on Saturday, and we are headed downhill. As these players know, they are through Monday. It is Tuesday now, and these guys are counting down the minutes until they can move out of the hotel, go back to their apartments, and actually have some good food. So with that being said, as always, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. What do you want to see or hear about during this week of camp? The defense had a standout scrimmage on Saturday. A lot of names popping up, some big stuff going on. There might be some injury bugs going around as of late Monday night as we're filming this. There is some breaking stuff on a running back and a receiver. We will wait for that to be confirmed before we go with it, as per our policy. But who do you want to see step up in this next week? It's like kind of moving day for guys to find their spots, like in a golf tournament. So it's going to be some exciting stuff. So make sure you get on BuckeyeScoop.com. We will have all the latest breaking news. With that being said, I'm going to bring in my friend Nevada. Nevada, how are you tonight?
Doing great. It's getting excited. It's getting time where we're starting to see the lights of the Notre Dame game here starting up pretty soon, and I'm pretty excited for football to be here in earnest.
Yeah, well, you had an incredible run at the end of last week between Friday, Saturday. You had two big nuggets. We're talking about Josh Proctor, also talking about Friday's practice where they were throwing the ball all over the lot. The offense really shredded the defense on Friday. Defense came back strong on Saturday. It's usually how it works in camp. First off, Josh Proctor is a guy that Jim Knowles said could be the best safety in the country. Thinks he could be an All-American. What was your nugget about on Josh Proctor, and why do you think that his upside is starting to swing right to the top of the All-American charts?
Well, I think Josh is a guy that safety-centric offense. He's a guy that's a difference maker. For Ohio State, they're looking for that guy that can be the big play man. The Mike Doss. The guy that can turn the game around with one big hit, one big intercept, one big fumble recovery, and Knowles has gone to Proctor, asked him to kind of assume more in terms of that role, and they've had him playing both bandit and adjuster, and he's really just been taking over. Defensively, been really leading the way for them, and I think we're going to see a little bit of a Buckeye resurgence on defense, and when you see that, it's primarily going to be led through. Those things are always right through the middle. It's going to be led through guys like Josh Proctor, guys like Tommy Eichenberg, guys like Steele Chambers, and but Josh is the guy that you've got to get production out of, and you've got to get consistent production out of. And I think you're going to see a monster year out of him, kind of a Malik Hooker type of season. And I couldn't be more excited about him.
Yeah, the people I talked to in the program, it's interesting with Josh because he's been snake bit by injuries. I mean, people remember the long Trevor Lawrence run, a long time ago. It seems like forever ago in 19 in that Fiesta Bowl. But I think that he's got the ability, and I think in a safety-driven defense where he gets to play his center field spot, I think he can really do yeoman's work. I mean, one guy I talked to, inside the wax said that he is a vicious hitter, which is something that I love because, when you have a guy that can run and he's an intimidator in the back end, it's something that always makes receivers a little less apt to want to go over the middle, but it also impacts the running game in a big way because, if a guy gets a 15-yard head start and you're a running back, get running a zone play and you get smoked a couple times, like all of a sudden you don't really want to run that play anymore. So that was interesting. Friday, you had eyes inside of practice at the stadium. Tell us a little bit about, CJ Stroud was outstanding. They were throwing it deep about every other play, testing out these corners, which I thought was interesting because, our cornerbacks are about as snake bitten thin of a position as there is. But tell us a little bit about what you heard on Friday, and then you can just mix it right into Saturday, the scrimmage, which the defense, I guess, stepped up and had a nice bounce back.
Yeah, I think the wide receivers and G.J. Stroud really feasted on Friday, and we talked about how the defense kind of came back with a snapback performance on Saturday, and I think for the Ohio State offense right now, it's really about kind of finding a balance because I think Ryan Day became a little pass happy last year and really you know, started to rely a little bit too much upon those talented wide receivers and the arm of C.J. Stroud almost to a fault. We throw the ball 30, 40, 50 times a game. And, when you're Ohio State, you've got to find that balance. You've got to find a way to activate the running game in a meaningful manner. And I think Ohio State's really kind of gone back to those roots. They've gone back to the analytics on things, and they saw, I think Day really has done some self-scouting, recognized that he was passing too much. And I think they've made a concerted effort this fall to, get that zone running game going, get Trey Henderson, get Chop Williams going, and Evan Pryor. Like I said, we're hearing some reports out that don't sound too promising, Evan Pryor. But like you said, we're not going to go with that right now, just because it's, I just think it's unseemly to talk about potential injuries. But regardless of how that running game has got to get going in a big time manner this year. If they're going to be a national championship worthy team, you've got to be able to run the ball consistently in November when the weather gets worse. And I think Ohio State's made a real commitment to doing that, and I think they'll be able to do it.
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting. Kevin Wilson came out and spoke at his press conference today. He said that the inside running game and short yardage isn't where it needs to be, and I think that's a combination of two things. I think it's a combination of the fact that we are so pass happy that it doesn't help us become a physical football team as much as we throw the ball. And it also hurts us, in our run fits defensively when we don't run the ball. Usually teams that can run the ball are good at stopping the run just because that's what they do in practice. But the second fault is I just think we're going to be young on the interior. I mean, I know these guys are talented and they're guards. Matt Jones has started, a handful of games in his career when Thayer was hurt and when we had COVID issues. He actually started the national championship against Alabama. I think Donnie Jones is a fantastic athlete, but he's still going to be just a true sophomore as zero career starts. So there's going to be some issues there. And again, like I'm a big proponent of throwing on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. If they have a loaded box and it's a play that you're outnumbered, I'm really, if you're not going to ever pull the quarterback in a zone read, then throw it to Jackson Smith and Jigba, throw it to Marvin Harrison because they're going to be singled up. If their box is loaded, one of those guys is going to be wound up. And I would just say run a slant, I'm throwing you the ball, first down, game over, it's all good. Like I think that people given they see that it's 3rd and 1 and everybody in the stadium should run the ball right in the A gap every time and get the push, but if there's free hitters in the hole, then you're asking for failure. So it's a math game, and I think that we have a smart system where they can look back and change the play based on where the numbers are. And I think that's something that when we throw it on 3rd and 1, I'm never upset about that because I've been in situations where I've had plays called that I knew could not work just because we were outnumbered. With 2 free hitters in the hole. No, even if we pancake everybody, there's 2 guys there to tackle Beanie, and some guys still like running that, but I don't. So what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Good.
Yeah, but I think to that point, though, I think it's a great point, and I think it's a really underrated point. I think you made a couple of really good points. The first one is, do teams that are pass happy, are they ever known as tough teams? Is Texas Tech, or those Oklahoma teams, are they ever known as tough teams? Hawaii, and I think the answer is no. And I think Ohio State's got to find that toughness back, and I think it starts from finding that running game. But then, to me, running game identity is not about we can run it whenever the other team knows that we're going to run it, because I don't believe that. I think that's that's like running your knights into the castle walls. When you're doing it, I think it's to me an effective running game is a running game that you can, when it's 2nd and 9, that you're not afraid to run the ball because you can get positive yardage. And I think it's about finding that balance about running when they expect you to pass and passing when they expect you to run, and being able to do both of them equally well, as opposed to running into mass front situations. And I think that's where Ohio State's had a little bit of problem in the past, where they don't really know who they are. And I think Day's a young head coach. He's one of the greatest offensive minds in college football right now. But I think he's still learning, and I think he's figuring out how to find a balance with Ohio State. And at Ohio State, I think that balance is important. But again, it's not just about running when they expect you to run. It's running when they don't expect you to run. And I think, if you can do that, then that sets everything up in your game.
Yeah, and I think, as you, maybe not against Notre Dame, but against Arkansas State and Toledo and some of these, these teams that we play, I think you call some design runs for CJ Stroud. And I know people are going to say that's sacrilegious and he's the number one pick and he's a golden arm and all this, but like, if you just call a couple of zone reads where he's forced to keep it, then all of a sudden that's something teams actually have to scheme for. Because as of right now, everyone in the world knows there's no chance that he's ever going to keep the ball. He might, run a fake off of it and try to hold the DN. But, if you're a college defensive coordinator, you are begging them to make CJ Stroud keep the ball. You're giving him every keep read you could ever imagine because you want to be able to hit him and stroke him. And I would say, look, pull the ball, get to the edge, get 3 yards, and slide. Don't take a hit. You're all good. And if someone's coming, to smoke you and you're behind the line of scrimmage, throw it away so they can't hit you. But again, it's just, I think if you do that a couple times on tape, it changes all the math. Because, one thing that we obviously were poor about last year is our self scout and the fact that, in pistol under center, we never, ever threw the ball. We ran like the same running plays. We're a zone team now. We don't run power at all. We don't pull guards, which, it's fine. That's their philosophy. They were number one in the nation in offense. But, you lose some physicality when you never down block double teams the way that, Urban's teams did and Trestle's teams did. And frankly, Nick Saban does. And, that's just part of the gig. And when you see that as a defense, it's a lot harder to combat it because they're not used to, teams that run power and counter like Wisconsin and Michigan. They ran power and counter like they always have. And our guys look like they'd never seen it before. It's hard for the scout team to simulate the physicality of a first string offensive line. And that's something that we lack. With that being said, Nevada, what are your solutions or what would you ideally do if you're the coordinator? How would you work to fix the 3rd and short issues?
Well, we talked a little bit about it earlier in the podcast. I think it's about one, being unpredictable and 2, have if you present a viable threat from your quarterback to run the ball. Again, I've got a lot of garbage about this on the boards about advocating for CJ to keep it, but I think that solves a lot of problems. You've talked about the predictability and down and distance and by formation, and I think that's got to go. And I just, I think it's a mindset for Ohio State that, they've just got to get out of this mindset that, that they're going to do what they expect you to do. And I think, Ohio State's got to become that unpredictable team that the teams don't know what's going to come next. They don't know if you're going to take that deep shot on 3rd and a half a yard or whatever it is. And, I think Day has made his mark by being an unpredictable head coach. I still remember that onside kick that he executed against Maryland so beautifully. And everybody's like, wow, what the heck was that? And I think we got to get back to some of that for the Ohio State offense to be fully activated. I mean, again, now we're picking nits somewhat because the Ohio State offense last year was darn good. And anybody who says different, it just doesn't. I mean, and frankly, if people expect it to be better than it was last year, I think we better moderate some expectations because it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to be better than number one. And I think the Ohio State offense, despite CJ undoubtedly being better, I don't know if the offensive line is going to be better this year. I just don't know. I hope they are. I'm rooting for them to be better, but I'm not convinced that they're going to be better. The wide receivers are certainly talented, but better than last year. I mean, better than Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba last year. I don't know if they're going to be better. So I think we've got some open questions, offensively, and I think it's going to be up to Day to, put them out there in a creative scheme and do things. But we've talked this many times. Offense is the least of my worries. I know we'll score. It's just, can we get some stops or even if we don't give up stops, I don't mind giving up big plays and getting the ball back to our offense quickly because I think we'll be able to score with anybody. We just have to mix in the occasional turnover and negative play, and if we can do that, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think that the offensive line again. I love the offensive line. I love those guys as much as anybody. But Thayer was really good last year. I mean, he made first team All American. He got a tree in the Grove. Nick Petit Frere, first team All American, tree in the Grove. 6 guys made All Big Ten, which has never happened in the history of football. So it's like, I know that people they judge everything based on the Michigan game, which is fine. That's their prerogative. But we gave up 296 on the ground. So, Aiden Hutchinson gives up a couple sacks. And frankly, when you're going against a guy as good as Aiden Hutchinson turned out to be, like, you have to chip the guy and you have to do some things that disrupt him instead of just letting him have free rushes on tackles that can't handle that guy. DeJuan got hurt early. So you had to move Nick over to right and Thayer to left, and had to do that whole mishmash. So honestly, it just wasn't our day. Our defense didn't show up. We walked into a fist fight. Our guys thought it was going to be easy, and it wasn't. And it's a good lesson. It's a good lesson for the staff, for Ryan Day. You can't just waltz in there and say, well, Michigan State beat this team and we just beat Michigan State by 70 points. So we should be able to walk up here and win by 1 and everybody go home happy and win the Big Ten. So I'm really going to be interested to see how we do against Notre Dame. I mean, obviously we're double digits favorites, which I don't love just because I think, these kids are, they're older than they were last year, obviously, but they also, everyone telling you that you're a 13-point favorite and Notre Dame can't hang with you. Like that always it worries me a little bit, especially because this is a brand new team. There's no Garrett Wilson. There's no Olave. But I think they're a tough team. I think they've been put through the paces by Mickey and by Ryan Day. This camp, it's been tough. Nevada, what do you want to hear about during this next week before these guys break camp? They're gonna have another big scrimmage on Saturday. But what are you hoping to hear or want to hear over the next week? Outside of some of the potential unfortunate injury news that is breaking late tonight.
Yeah, I want us to stay clean offensive. I mean, just from a injury standpoint. I mean, I hate to keep going back to that, but you just want us. I don't want anything weird to happen with injury bug. Any academic ineligibility, which I'm not hearing about any, but you just don't like that stuff to crop up. As long as I just think we can kind of keep it kind of uneventful and just kind of get in there, I think that Ohio State's going to be just fine. I'm always intrigued to see at this time of the year, what Ohio State could potentially do with a situation where you've got, a really thin position at cornerback right now. And what do you do with that? Do you go to some of your talented wide receivers and try to find one of those guys to play? I don't know. It's the open question as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean that's the most snakes. So with that being said, we're gonna wrap this thing. I appreciate you guys so much. What do you guys want to hear out of this last week of camp? These guys move out on Saturday. They're excited. They've got 5 days left in the hotel. I'm hoping a couple of these guys that are rumored to be injured aren't injured, or it's not as severe as people are projecting right now. So thinking about a couple of these guys, we don't like talking about injuries. Breaking injuries is not something that I like to do. There's MRIs that need to be done. There's parents that need to be alerted. So it's just one of those treacherous times right now. But comment, what would you want to see improve over the next week? Obviously, in this past scrimmage, Kevin also was not happy about the short yardage rushing attack. So let me know what you guys want to see and hear over the next week. Defense is stepping up. They're playing hard. But what will be important for you as the week progresses? So countdown. We are about 3 weeks away from Notre Dame. Can't wait for it to be here. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Scoop family. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you so much for all your support on this channel. If you enjoyed the content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Go Bucks.